God created the land, He put on earth two people, Adam and Eve. Now with time, those people have multiplied and filled the earth, but the land has not increased. Because of that, people have gone to subdividing and subdividing in order to own land. And with that have come conflicts, disputes, wrangles, all sorts of negative things that have affected the ownership and productive use of land.
Yeah, land is important because it's a resource, Where do you make your living? You need to cultivate food. You need to put up some projects and you're going to put it on land.
80% of court cases in this sub-region is actually about land.
The cases normally are between the rich relatives and the poor ones. And then the misbehavior of brothers-in-law towards widows. The moment somebody passes on, a brother-in-law or even a sister-in-law begins to harass the widow. Those are the kind of cases we handle.
First of all, customary tenure is about 80% of our land in the country. There's no evidence of land rights. Their boundary conflicts are very high, one of the highest. So we proposed ways of improving how people could prove their land rights. Reducing the conflict without depending on the witnesses who can sometimes, not be honest. Sometimes they are dead and the rest. So we had a package of what families could do on their own to improve their ways of proving that the land is there, even prevent conflict. That's when we came out with boundary tree planting, with the neighbors all agreeing. We came out with sketch map, because boundaries can help if you visit the land, but if you go to court, you will need a piece of paper before the conflict starts. So the third one was to have a lineage of your family, because then you will have, these are the owners of the land, this is the sketch map of the land, and this is the landmarks physically on the ground. So we thought if that was done, it would improve the security of tenure and people's ability to prove that they have the land rights. But we also had the rights documented in order to disprove the fact that they're saying that women do not own land. So those are the 4 tools that we have to improve security of tenure of customary land.
My neighbor is very wealthy and he used to work in Little Town but came here over the weekends. One day, he put a barbed wire fence to mark his boundary and in the process enclosed a big part of my land into his land. When I spoke to him about it, he became rude and started threatening me. He told me to leave my land and did not want to find me here the next time he came back. As a widow, I had no power to fight for my land all by myself. I used to move around town like a mad woman because of the problems I had about the land. I would go to offices, but they would just ignore me and walk away as if I didn't exist. I would try, fail, rest, and then try again.
We did a research with 508 widows in Lamu and 209 widows in Teso with TROCRA funding. And we found over 50% of widows have land conflicts 1 to 2 months after their husbands have died. No, that cannot be by accident. So you have to look at the parties. If it is a brother-in-law and a widow, and they are fighting over the boundary, you should suspect that is not really a boundary conflict, but a land grabbing attempt.
My neighbor continued to threaten and intimidate me. I really suffered, feeling so much frustration. I cried a lot. I couldn't eat. I couldn't sleep. But I did not give up because I needed the land for survival, not just for me, but also for my children and grandchildren. Without the land, how could we survive? The last office I went to was called Kalvik. They referred me to LEMU. The staff there welcomed me. I told them my whole story and they visited the land and then wrote to my neighbor inviting him to come for mediation to settle the matter. Both of us were asked to present our witnesses to prove that we had rights over the land. My neighbor did not have any witnesses. After some days, LEMU once again told all of us to meet here at home with all our witnesses. I brought mine. There, they asked my neighbor once again in front of everybody to present his witnesses, and he said he had none. On that same day, he also accepted that he was indeed encroaching into my land and that the fence he had put up was not his true boundary. The case was settled there and then. Boundary trees were brought and we all planted them in the true boundary. My neighbor also participated in the digging of the holes for the trees as we planted the boundary trees. Now everything is different. There are no more quarrels, no more threats. I feel safe now.
I actually think that in many ways we are only reactivating what used to be the culture. When we went through the colonial stage and the insurgency and development and education, many people forgot the boundary tree, and it was being used mainly for bathrooms, for cattle crushes and the rest of it. So when we brought it back, it was easy in a way to agree to it, but also to name the particular tree. And by coincidence, Lango and Teso, we went through different processes, but they all agreed on the same trees, what they call Mara Mara or Jumla or Ligo, Eligoi. So the principle is accepted everywhere, but people actually feel secure on their land, and we have concluded that people who plant trees before conflict they have either bought the land or they have had a threat. That's when they move then but when they are still with no threat, they take their time to plant those boundary trees.
Well, if we are putting the boundary, all the neighbors of the 4 boundaries should be here.
The neighbor on this side must be there when we are doing the boundary planting here. Then the neighbors on this side has to be here. Even the neighbors on this side, they have to be there. That is one. Then the chairman LC1 of the village has to be there. Then our chiefs, we said there is somebody in charge of the family lineage. The family lineage, before you go to the Jago, the first chief, that is the first level of the chief, he has to be there.
As the customary owners are planting their boundary trees, together with everybody from the community and the area land committees, the area land committee picks the coordinates. Wherever the tree is planted, the coordinates are picked, and a sketch is generated with GPS coordinates that are stored in the land information system.
I'm happy, in fact, that we have scored 50% success on that matter, because we have already secured the boundary outside of our own, which covers our clan people. The community that I lead is a very big community. As I say, some of them live here, others live in Lira. If you are familiar with this, in Lira we have scattered people. But our policy was to ensure that we educate them about boundary marking, to ensure that they understand the meaning of boundary marking and actually participate and implement the boundary marking. We ourselves had no capacity, so we did partnership with LEMU. They were trained. We first trained their leaders, and then the leaders went to train the people, and the people actually went down to implement the policy that we had laid down concerning boundary markings. I think in the process it has brought security. It has helped a resettlement program, which otherwise would have been very, very difficult to proceed smoothly and, to my mind, happily.
Because of the boundary tree planting, that will also have reduced on the possible conflicts. So by 20 years from now, I expect a very calm situation in Teso in as far as land problems are concerned. That's my imagination.